Tent camping is a great way to really experience being outside and a great way to spend time with friends and family. But it's important to be prepared and a lot more fun if you know what you're doing. Here's what I always have on my packing list when I go camping.
It's good to keep your food in a cooler for a couple of reasons. It'll keep everything cold with a little ice, and it'll keep your food organized and easy to carry, which is important since you don't want to attract animals by leaving food at your campsite or in your tent. Keep your food in the car or hung up when you don't need it out. A camp stove makes cooking while camping much easier and is definitely good to bring. I always make sure to bring extra clothes, especially socks. You never know when you might get rained on or fall in a stream, and you don't want to be stuck with wet clothes. Make sure to always have a good enough coat to stay plenty warm and a raincoat to stay dry. While it might not be the first thing you think of if you're packing during the day, it gets dark outside, and it's important to have a couple flashlights. I like to have a lantern as well to light up the campsite even more. Campfires are really fun and a big part of tent camping, but don't bring firewood with you. Transporting firewood potentially means transporting bugs and plants that aren't good for different places, and it's almost always easier to just buy some cheap firewood when you get there. Do bring sticks from home for roasting marshmallows or hot dogs over the fire, though. Don't cut the branches off trees in the campground for that. While the most important shelter you need to bring is your tent, I like to have a big tarp set up in the campsite to make sure there's always a dry place to sit outside. You don't want to be stuck in your tent if it's raining. It's also important to remember to bring a warm sleeping bag and a sleeping pad. The ground is hard. There are lots of different kinds of tents and each one works a little differently, so the first step to setting up a tent is really to set it up once at home to make sure you know how to do it. Putting the tent up is always the first thing I do when I get to the campsite because you never know what the weather might do, and if you can avoid it, you don't want to have to set the tent up in the rain. While you probably could put the tent up by yourself, it's a lot easier with help. This is especially true for bigger tents. Recruit a friend. Tents usually have a few bags to store all the parts in. Make sure to keep track of where you put those so it's easy to take the tent down and so you don't lose anything. It is important to use tent stakes, especially with the rain fly. They don't just hold down the tent, but pull the sides out to better repel the weather. On a tent platform like this, there are usually places to tie down the tent which you could use instead of stakes.
Cooking over the campfire can be really fun. Here's how I make s'mores.
It's good to get the ingredients ready ahead of time for s'mores. Break graham crackers into squares and get them in sets of 2. Break the chocolate into squares also, and grab the marshmallows. Once you've got everything together, grab a set of graham cracker squares and put a piece of chocolate on one side. The next step is to roast your marshmallow. The good thing about s'mores is that they actually work even better if the marshmallow is a little burned, because you want the marshmallow to be pretty gooey when you put it all together. Once your marshmallow is cooked to perfection, put the graham cracker square with the chocolate piece on it under the marshmallow, and then put the second graham cracker square on top, so you're holding it like a sandwich. Carefully squish the whole sandwich together and pull the marshmallow off the stick.